At 4:03 a.m., the sky over the South China Sea was quiet, too quiet. Then a single blip appeared on Chinese radar. It wasn't supposed to be there. That blip was the B-2 Spirit, America's invisible bomber. Within seconds, Chinese HQ-9 missile crews were scrambling. Alarms blared. A missile launched. The target? A $2.1 billion ghost designed to erase cities without ever being seen. The control room in Beijing went silent. Eyes locked on the screen. The missile streaked toward the unknown. Was this a glitch? A decoy? Or had China finally caught the uncatchable? Was this the moment China cracked stealth? Or the beginning of their greatest military miscalculation? The players in the shadows. The B-2 Spirit isn't just a bomber. It's a symbol. With a radar cross-section smaller than a bird, it's the crown jewel of U.S. strategic air power. Each one costs more than a skyscraper and can erase a city in a single strike. China's HQ-9 missile system, modeled partly on Russian S-300 tech, is designed to counter stealth. It's fast, precise, and deadly. On paper, the South China Sea is no ordinary battleground. It's a chessboard of carriers, submarines, and disputed islands. Whoever controls it controls the future of Asia. The U.S. Navy's presence here isn't just tactical, it's symbolic. Every carrier, every patrol, every flyover is a message. We're watching. And on this morning, both sides were about to test their most sacred weapons, the missile that shouldn't have launched. The radar contact was brief, just a flicker. But in a high-alert zone like the South China Sea, even a flicker can trigger chaos. Chinese air defense operators stared at their screens. The signal was faint, erratic, but it matched the profile of something they'd only seen in simulations, the B-2 Spirit. Within seconds, command protocols kicked in. HQ-9 missile crews scrambled, launch codes were verified. A single missile roared from its silo, slicing through the humid dawn sky. Its target? A bomber designed to be invisible. Inside the B-2 cockpit, the pilot remained calm. No evasive maneuvers, no countermeasures. The aircraft's stealth geometry and radar-absorbing skin were doing their job. The missile was flying blind. Then, silence. The radar screen in Beijing went dark. The blip was gone. For a moment, the control room erupted in cautious celebration. Had they done it? Had China achieved what no nation had before, striking the unstrikable? But something was off. No debris, no explosion, no confirmation, just absence. Meanwhile, thousands of feet above, the B-2 was still gliding, silent, undetected, and now dangerously close to its target. The missile hadn't hit a bomber. It had hit a decoy, a phantom signature designed to bait the launch. And while China celebrated, the real ghost had moved into position. This wasn't just a failed interception. It was a trap. And the next move would be devastating. The ghost strikes back. From 40,000 feet, the B-2 released its payload, a GBU-57 bunker buster, capable of penetrating 200 feet of reinforced concrete. Seconds later, JASSM cruise missiles followed, weaving through radar nets like phantoms. The HQ-9 base that had fired the missile? Gone. Satellite imagery showed a crater where the launch site had been. The retaliation was surgical, brutal, and invisible. The B-2 didn't just survive, it responded with precision. No warning, no mercy, just impact. China had fired first, but America had finished the conversation, the shockwave across the Pacific. The strike was over in seconds, but its impact rippled across continents. News outlets scrambled to verify what had happened. Military analysts debated whether the B-2's retaliation was preemptive, proportional, or provocative. But one thing was clear. China's most advanced air defense system had failed. In Beijing, the mood shifted from triumph to silence. The HQ-9 base, once a symbol of deterrence, was now a crater. Questions flooded internal channels. How did the B-2 evade detection? Was the radar compromised? Had the U.S. used electronic warfare to blind their systems? In Washington, the Pentagon released no official statement, but satellite images leaked online told the story. The message was unmistakable. Stealth still ruled the skies. Allies took notice. Japan convened an emergency defense summit. Australia increased aerial patrols over the Coral Sea. The Philippines quietly offered expanded basing rights to U.S. forces. The region was recalibrating, not just in response to the strike, but to the vulnerability it exposed. And for China, the psychological blow was immense. The HQ-9 was supposed to be the shield. Now, it looked like a paper wall. This wasn't just a military failure, it was a strategic awakening. Because if stealth could still dominate, then every radar, every missile, every doctrine built to counter it was suddenly obsolete. The Pacific had changed, not with declarations but with silence, the kind only a ghost bomber could leave behind. The carrier that changed course. Just hours after the B-2 strike, the USS Ronald Reagan, a Nimitz-class aircraft carrier, shifted its course. It wasn't a routine maneuver. It was deliberate, calculated, and provocative. The carrier moved closer to the Spratly Islands, a region China claims as its own. The message was clear. The U.S. wasn't backing down. On board, over 5,000 personnel prepared for escalation. FA-18 Super Hornets were armed and fueled. Surveillance drones launched. Electronic warfare teams scanned for signals. The Reagan wasn't just a ship, it was a floating fortress, and now it was parked on China's doorstep. In response, China scrambled J-20 stealth fighters from Hainan Island. These fifth-generation jets, designed to rival the F-22, took to the skies in formation. Radar screens lit up. AWACS planes circled overhead. The South China Sea became a chessboard of steel and silence. No shots were fired, no missiles launched, but the tension was electric. Every pilot knew the rules, and how easily they could be broken. This wasn't war, not yet, but it was the closest thing to it. Because when two superpowers move their most lethal assets into the same airspace, the margin for error disappears. The Reagan's repositioning wasn't just tactical, it was psychological, a show of force, a reminder that the U.S. Navy still ruled the waves, and that any challenge would be met not with words, but with wings. The hunters beneath. Submarines in the shadows. While jets carved contrails across the sky and carriers shifted positions on the surface, another battle brewed below. Silent, invisible, and far more dangerous. Beneath the waves of the South China Sea, submarines from both sides began to move. The U.S. Navy's Virginia-class attack submarines, armed with Tomahawk cruise missiles and advanced sonar arrays, glided through the depths like predators. Their mission: monitor Chinese naval movements, intercept communications, and remain undetected. These subs are built for stealth, capable of staying submerged for months, listening, watching, waiting. China's Type 093 nuclear-powered attack submarines responded. Though less advanced, they were fast, aggressive, and determined to track the American ghosts. Sonar pings echoed through the water. Torpedo tubes were loaded. Crews operated in near-total darkness, relying on instinct and training. The ocean became a battlefield of silence. Every sound mattered. A dropped wrench, a miscalculated maneuver, a sonar ping too loud, any of these could trigger a deadly response. In submarine warfare, there are no second chances. You're either silent or you're gone. And in these depths, where pressure crushes steel and sound travels for miles, silence is the most lethal weapon. No missiles were fired, no explosions rocked the sea, but the tension was unbearable. Because when submarines shadow each other, the war is already underway. It's just waiting for someone to blink. The cyber front, war without bullets. While missiles flew and submarines prowled, another war was unfolding. One without explosions, without smoke, and without borders. It was the cyber front, where silence could be louder than a bomb, and a single line of code could cripple an entire defense system. Moments after the B-2 strike, Chinese cyber units launched a coordinated digital offensive. Their target, U.S. satellite networks, radar feeds, and encrypted communications. The goal wasn't destruction, it was disruption. If they could blind America's eyes in the sky, they could tilt the battlefield. But the US was ready. Cyber Command activated defensive protocols and launched countermeasures. Firewalls hardened, data rerouted. And then, retaliation. American cyber teams infiltrated Chinese missile telemetry systems, causing brief signal losses and scrambled targeting data. For a few minutes, China's air defense grid flickered, not from bombs, but from bandwidth. Across both nations, digital warfare specialists worked in dark rooms, surrounded by screens, typing furiously. No uniforms, no medals, just keyboards and silence. In this war, there were no heroes, only ghosts in the machine. And every second of lag, every corrupted file, every lost signal, was a bullet fired in silence. The cyber front didn't make headlines, but it shaped every decision, every movement, every strike. Because in modern warfare, control of information is control of reality, and reality itself was now under siege. The diplomatic fallout, words sharper than missiles. The strike may have ended in silence, but the diplomatic fallout was deafening. Within hours, press briefings erupted across capitals. In Washington, officials condemned China's aggression, framing the B-2's retaliation as a defensive response to a hostile missile launch. In Beijing, the narrative flipped. The US had violated sovereign airspace, and the missile launch was a justified act of deterrence. At the United Nations, emergency sessions convened. Ambassadors traded accusations. Resolutions were drafted, vetoed, redrafted. But behind the scenes, something more significant was happening. Alliances were shifting. Japan, long wary of regional escalation, quietly approved a record-breaking defense budget increase. Australia deployed surveillance drones to monitor Chinese naval movements. The Philippines, strategically located and historically cautious, offered expanded basing rights to US forces, signaling a tilt toward Western defense cooperation. Even non-aligned nations began to reassess. Vietnam increased radar coverage. India held joint naval drills with the US Navy. The strike had done more than destroy a missile base. It had redrawn the map of influence. This wasn't just a military moment. It was a diplomatic earthquake. Because when stealth bombers speak, the world listens, and when they strike, the world chooses sides. The South China Sea was no longer just a contested zone. It had become a litmus test for global power. And every nation watching knew the next move wouldn't be made with missiles, but with treaties, deployments, and quiet deals behind closed doors. The future of stealth. Can ghosts survive hypersonics? The B-2 spirit had survived, but survival isn't dominance. In the aftermath of the strike, military analysts around the world began asking a chilling question. How long can stealth remain supreme? China's DF-17 hypersonic missile travels at over Mach 5, maneuvering mid-flight and reducing reaction time to seconds. Russia's Kinzhal claims similar speeds, with unpredictable trajectories that make interception nearly impossible. These weapons don't just challenge stealth, they threaten to erase it. In response, the United States unveiled the B-21 Raider. Sleeker, smarter, and designed for a future where radar is no longer the only threat. The Raider promises adaptive camouflage, AI-assisted flight paths, and the ability to operate in contested zones where hypersonics roam freely. But even that may not be enough. Quantum radar being developed in Chinese labs could detect stealth aircraft by measuring photon disturbances. AI-powered drone swarms could overwhelm even the most advanced bombers. The battlefield is evolving, and fast. Stealth was once the final word in air superiority. Now it's just the opening line in a much longer conversation, because if speed beats silence and algorithms outthink pilots, then the skies won't belong to ghosts, they'll belong to machines. The future of stealth isn't just about surviving hypersonics. It's about redefining invisibility itself. And in that race, Every nation is sprinting toward a horizon that keeps moving. The human cost, pilots, crews, and the weight of silence. Behind every radar ping, missile launch, and stealth maneuver are human beings,